Well, welcome, cowboys, cowgirls, and outlaws. Today is a pretty special episode, and I thought before the end of the year we'd go ahead and get to it. This is where we're going to be talking about the guns of 1873, as well as the 1873 year weapons, and some of the cartridges that were introduced. This video is not going to be all-inclusive, and we're not going to be talking about specifically history. This is basically meant to just show you the appreciation that I have for the 150th anniversary and the fact that this is awesome. Also, what better way to celebrate the 150th anniversary than to have these weapons in their natural own habitat in the beautiful outdoors of Central Texas? As you guys well know, the rifles and the pistols here all saw some type of action on the frontier. Texas at one time was part of that frontier, even though it became a state in 1845. But it definitely saw a lot of use with things like the Texas Rangers as well as other lawmen. And so the pistols and rifles themselves definitely have a place in Texas history as well. I'm just going to go ahead and give you a quick introduction of the weapons that I have on here. I have mostly everything to commemorate the big major firearms developments of 1873. I am missing one major firearm though. I understand that there are other firearms that might have been developed during the year of 1873, but honestly, this is strictly about these particular weapons. So if you guys look over here, you're going to see that I have an original first generation Colt. This one is actually in 4440. Mind you, it is a first generation Colt single action Army that was basically manufactured so that it could be sold to the civilian market, hence the reason why it's in the caliber 4440, and it is not actually designated as a single action Army, even though it is the same type of gun. It is actually given the moniker of the Colt Frontier 6-shooter, so that's just something that is kind of neat. On here you actually do have a Colt single action Army designation, but it is also in third generation and it's nickel plated. In the back here you're going to see the iconic Winchester 1873 rifle that we are going to be talking about as well. This one is actually a late production, and it is not in the calibers that you would typically think of when it comes to 1873, particularly with the cartridge that we are going to be talking about. This one is actually chambered in 3220. However, it is a Winchester 1873. It is an original, even though it is not chambered in the original caliber that they came out in. Mind you, they came out in many different calibers. You can see that in my other videos that I have made. But wow, just if you look at this, we have what a piece of history on all three of these. Even though, you could say you hate on the third generation Colts, but you know what? They are a Colt, and, they are still made today. They may not be made to the original perfect specs as the first generations were, and some would argue that the second generation and first generation, all that, depending on which better quality, but all bets aside, we're also going to be talking about the ammunition here. So over here we have a 4570, which was developed for the 1873 Springfield rifle, which you do not see here. That came in many different calibers as well, but typically that's where you come out with the 4570 government. That's where it kind of got its big hit with, and it saw its chambering in other rifles as well. In the middle here you're going to see the 4440, which is what this weapon is chambered in, but it came out specifically for the Winchester 1873 rifle, and it is still in use today. So it is one of my favorite calibers. I like to shoot it, and you can probably see some footage going on around here kind of showing me shooting actually this pistol right here in the black powder loading for a 4440 or a 44 WCF. I know that we can get into the whole nuances of that. And the final cartridge that we're going to talk about is actually the 45 Colt, which is what the designation, which is what the caliber for the Colt Single Action Army was when it first came out. You can see my history on the Colt Single Action Army and my history on the 1873 to kind of talk a little bit more about that. But you know, just kind of go ahead and enjoy these things, because you know what? I mean, 150 years ago, this stuff was brand new technology. And I mean, we're talking, you know, basically in the development of firearms, we're kind of talking about going into almost the space age here. You know, some people can argue that, you know, that when we talk about space age development, we're talking about Spitzer cartridges and all that. In my mind, when I think of, you know, the biggest jump is when we shifted over to metallic cartridges. And that definitely was very apparent in the year of 1873. And you know, even though you can argue which caliber could be better further on going down the road, the fact that we even have casings is thanks to the year of 1873 as far as primer, powder, and projectile. Now, there were brass casings, there were copper casings, and yes, things were originally copper at one point and then switched over to brass. And you could argue that, you know, technically the metallic case had existed before that. Yes, but when it was all kind of put together was kind of all when this specific development during these rifles and these pistols was really going on. So that's kind of something that you can really appreciate. I know that there are other channels out there that have done episodes specifically on the 150th anniversary, and you know, it's getting close to the end of the year, so I thought I'd get mine in. Please enjoy the footage that I am putting out before you on this screen. You know, I'm going to have you seeing me shoot several different types of weapons that might have been used during that year, specifically with the 1873. Yes, I am going to be shooting, yes, I am shooting this rifle. I'm also shooting someone else's rifle that is actually in 4440, and I am also shooting this Colt Single Action Army Frontier 6 shooter in 4440. Yeah, and then I will also be shooting this one too. So I'm gonna, you know, you're gonna get your trifecta of enjoyment out of this video. So, you know, while I'm talking, feel free to enjoy that footage. This is a late production Winchester 1873, and I kind of talk about that in some other videos. Definitely in the 700,000 range, and the fact that it's in 3220 and has an octagonal barrel. It is a third model. You guys can talk about that with the dust cover and all that stuff. So definitely has its place. I can't tell you how happy I am to really bring this stuff to you. We definitely are going to look forward to shooting a little bit more with these guns next year. As we bring in the new year, we're going to have more targets out. We're going to have more shooting videos by popular demand. So I definitely am looking forward to that with you. You know, once again, just feel free to enjoy it. Thank you, Winchester. I think this is perfect to take this time to just say thank you to the Winchester Repeating Arms Company to actually developing something that has lasted the test of time. You know, and to say that it is the rifle that won the West, you know, even though that's a marketing ploy, it's still something that people remember by to this day, even though that saying came out in the 1920s or just prior to it, so not when it was developed. Certainly not during that year. And definitely give a thank you to Mr. Samuel Colt, even though he died before the production of his famed Colt Single Action Army. You know, it is just another iconic firearm that we can appreciate even to this day. You know, and because of the development of these three different types of calibers, we definitely have further development of cartridges later on down the road, and they just get better and better from there. But they are still three cartridges that are used today and are manufactured today. You know, sometimes good luck finding them, but they are manufactured today. So if you guys got your weapons of 1873, feel free to go out there and give it a good shooting, bring in the new year, and we'll see you in the next video.